party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premier podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing 2021. I am joined by the Northman, the Canadian, the hockey player, the Moose Rider, Chris Bailey. How do you do, sir?
I'm just reading an email from Mark Radulich here. It says, what? Chris Bailey has been, what? Future endeavored? What is this, Mark? What is this?
We are gearing up to sell the Radulich and Broadcasting Network for crack money.
Damn you, Hollywood.
So, yeah, I'm running through the streets going, everyone want to buy this podcast, and I'm in a bathrobe and underwear.
Well done, sir.
All right, Chris, let's just jump right into the. Wait, let's do the news. All right, can I play my news segment?
Yes, play the news segment.
And now, I'm up at News Flash!
Anytime I can play the Muppet news segment blowing up, I'm gonna do it.
I think before we start the news, I think we should do the news that was before the news. So first of all, like WWE had a press release that Nick Khan, Steve Koonin, and Connor Schell have been elected to the board of directors. Now, this is going to come into play very quickly, as we'll see what happened yesterday, because Khan joined the WWE in August as the president and chief financial officer. So this guy's got a super big position here. Now, he previously served as the co-head of television department at Creative at the arts agency LLC. Now, Koonin, who is also currently the chief executive officer of the Atlanta Hawks of the National Baseball Association, and State Farm is there. So, I mean, these guys are, looks like he was also served as the president of Turner Entertainment Network, overseeing TNT, TBS, True TV, one of my favorite channels. No, it's not. And TCM. And also 14 years with Coca-Cola Company. Now, Shell is the CEO and unscripted comedy venture with Sharon Entertainment. So, I mean, these guys have got like a litany of credentials now. So the WWE signed all these guys, so obviously huge paychecks are coming. You know what I mean? They obviously spent money to get these guys, which leads us to the second part of the news. Mark, why don't you hit him up with that?
Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com is reporting that WWE has released Braun Strowman Choo-Choo, Aleister Black, and other wrestlers in another round of layoffs. Sapp tweeted that in addition to Strowman and Black, Ruby Riott, Lana, Santana Garrett, and Buddy Murphy have also been released. Black immediately tweeted that this was out of left field to him, having just started his new character run, but thanked the WWE Universe for their support. These releases come on the heels of WWE having a round of cuts on April 15th, shortly after WrestleMania, which included Samoa Joe, who commentated WrestleMania in a downpour.
It was almost like the final insult for Samoa Joe, wasn't it?
Yeah, really.
And then replacing him with Adnan Virk was also another kick in the balls, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Billy Kay, Peyton Royce, and others. The release of Velveteen Dream, the release of Tom Phillips, and the mutual parting ways of the just mentioned Adnan Virk.
Man, now Adnan Virk, I will not shed one single tear because I don't think the guy had what it takes to cut it on TV. But Tom Phillips, I want to talk about that before we get into yesterday's releases. Tom Phillips actually did not upset me as an announcer, and that doesn't happen often these days, Mark, because Tom was one of those guys who were completely unoffensive to me and actually did his job. He didn't sound like he was pandering to Vince McMahon in the back room like, our good buddy who's been sitting at that desk for way, 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 way too long. And I just think he's one of the bigger losses here. Now, of course, the Iconics, that was another one who I thought would be a big deal for another company coming up. So they were a loss. But man, when the bombshell of, the Royal Rumble champion himself, Mr. Braun Strowman, a physical champion over in Saudi, was released, I don't even know what to think.
Yeah, that was the big one. Just a quick remark on Tom Phillips. I think my reaction to his firing was who?
Oh man, come on.
He was wallpaper. I mean,
Yes.
He okay, so I think I've told this joke before, and I swear I won't go into like an elongated Greg the Hammer Valentine, Grandpa Simpson spindly tale, but bear with me here. My friend Paul and I, when we would watch the UFC back in the early days, back in the Joe Rogan, Mike Goldberg era,
Yes.
We appreciated Joe Rogan. We thought his commentary was authentic. We thought he was watching the product, that he was knowledgeable, and that he had good things to add to accentuate what you were watching on the screen. Mike Goldberg, we kept referring to as the Goldberg 3000, referencing a Simpsons gag about the DJ computer.
You're not wrong. And I mean, WWE had their eyes set on Goldberg for quite some time, especially when they were, there multiple times of trying to fire Jim Ross. Goldberg's name was out there all the time. So, I mean, we almost had Mike Goldberg into WWE, doing some announcing over there, which thankfully we bypassed. But yeah, he's like basically a Russian robot who spits out adjectives. Yeah.
And so that to me was Tom Phillips. That's a lot of the announcers there. Not to go off on a rant here, but long gone are the days of Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler where where they were authentically reacting to the product. We just watched the Mick Foley A&E biography on Monday night. I don't know if you've been catching up on it. I don't know if you have A&E in Canada or electricity
Certainly.
or running water, but you just call me a dick. It's fine. There you go. Everything runs on moose power. I don't understand how Canada works. I've only been to Toronto, which I understand is like the kingdom.
I apologize to all the Canadians for this asshole.
But when the Undertaker threw Foley off the cage, I mean, Ross and Lawler didn't know what was coming.
Oh, yeah. No, that's exactly right. But we're living in special times here now. We're in pandemic mode, too. So, I mean, everything is either pre-taped or shit-canned. So, I mean, the authenticity of the recordings are not going to be, as well as it's going to be. But I think they've done a reasonably serviceable job until we got to Samoa Joe, who felt like he wanted to hang himself with a belt every time he was behind that mic. Even further worse, Adnan Virk. Oh, my God.
I could not pick Adnan Virk. I thought when they were like Adnan Virk's on fire, I'm like, is he the guy that used to be with Hassan, Muhammad Hassan? I don't know who this is. People are like tweeting me like, all Arabs aren't the same. I know. I just don't pay attention to anything. My point being that, what's his face? Todd Phillips?
Yes, Tom Phillips.
Tom Phillips. I'm thinking of Todd Pettengill. See? This is what I mean. Todd Pettengill, the radio DJ they hired and was like, a part of WWE like 95 and 96, sticks with me. He was different. He was interesting.
He was a character, yes.
Yeah.
We have no characters behind the mic right now. Like
Jerry
the King Lawler was a character.
Right. These guys are all wallpaper. Yeah. These guys are the Goldberg 3000.
Jim Ross was a character too, believe it or not. He was the guy with the hat. Good old JR. That's a character. Believe it or not, it worked. So, I mean, when you had the King and you had JR, and I mean, look, let's go back to the classic era. Talk about Monsoon and Heenan, or McMahon and Ventura. Pure characters. Straight man, funny man, you know what I mean? And that's exactly what we're missing right now. Instead, we had Tom Phillips, he's not as bad as Michael Cole. He's definitely an upgrade from Michael Cole. And then you got Corey Graves. I don't know where you stand on Corey Graves.
I mean, everybody. I think Corey Graves, left to his own devices, would be at least a character and would be interesting and would stand out from the crowd. But, the WWE in its current form, and this is going to evolve into the next bit here we're doing in the news, just squeezes the life out of everybody. It turns... I mean, the WWE is like one of those like cartoon or movie scenarios where you see people being put through a machine and everyone comes out the same.
It's like a conveyor belt. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger,
Right.
cheeseburger. Yep, exactly.
I mean, people come from the indies. They come from all walks of life. They come into the WWE for big money and the opportunity to be on the biggest stage for this medium possible. And because of the way the WWE runs, it just sucks the life out of you. I spent my birthday yesterday, June 2nd, catching up on 5 out of 8 weeks of missed NXT. Like, I hadn't watched NXT since TakeOver, Stand and Deliver. And so, I did what I wanted to do for my birthday. I ate steak and hung out with my wife on the couch in my underwear.
Good man.
I'm a middle-aged
That's living,
man.
baby. That's living.
Goddamn right. Party? No. NXT in my underwear? Yes, ma'am. But one of the things I was noticing about NXT is just how watching everything that's happened since TakeOver. Like, I loved Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross showed up. I didn't get to see too much of him in TNA, but he showed up on a Bloodsport, and I was like instantly in love with this guy. And he still has some intensity to him, but him, they're squeezing the juice out of.
Well, it's all about it's all about Scarlett. You know what I mean? It's about that entrance, and they don't really get past that. I think that's mostly what they're hanging their hat on is the Scarlett factor, and not focusing enough on Karrion Kross, honestly. Because even the backstage segments are getting crappy. And I mean, they went through a period where they were teaming him up with his arch nemesis Finn Balor, and that really didn't make a lot of sense, Mark. Honestly, went against his character, who's this loner vulture type guy, who's this ultimate predator, with this super hot, mega hot, sextress that comes to the ring with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't know. You're right. They do a fantastic job of watering down talent. I'll give them that. That's one thing they're great at.
So this goes on to say that Strowman was just involved with the WWE Championship story. I'm going to talk about Braun Strowman let's get all the information out there. Lana had been involved in the Women's Tag Team Championship picture with partner Naomi, and Garrett spent most of her time on NXT. Murphy found his television time dwindle after his dropped angle with Aaliyah and Mysterio.
Which was too bad, because that was one of the few angles that I was tuning in for. As silly as it was an angle. It wasn't just, Mark attacks Chris, and then Chris attacks Mark, then we have a promo, then we fight at the pay-per-view. That's all we're living in right now. You know what I mean? So the fact that they had a side story going on that was adding a little bit of contexture or context to a feud, which was pointless, was a little bit of fun. And I thought, giving Murphy something to do, which he was playing it off pretty well, was fun. But anyway, it got dropped.
Somebody mentioned, so Braun Strowman is really the only person on this list that, is a big surprise. I mean, Aleister Black is probably the second biggest one, but Aleister Black was off TV for 100 years, and then they brought him back, and then they cut him. And it's one of those ones where you go, wait, why did you bring him back if you were just going to cut him? One hand may not have known what the other hand was doing. And let's face it, it doesn't seem like this is a guy Vince McMahon ultimately got or saw the value in. And, he's gone. So I know a lot of people who are into him as Tommy End. A lot of the Twitter wrestling base is and clutching their pearls and catching vapors. I'm not moved. I'm more moved by his firing than Gary Phillips. But Bob Phillips, that guy we were just talking about, that sparked the whole Goldberg 3000.
Is what you get here at the W2M network right there. It's this type of reporting you can expect every week.
Yeah, so Philip J. Hoffman, I don't mind that they fired him. It doesn't really matter to me. But, Aleister Black, I'm kind of sad to see him go. It's a shame he didn't work out. Once again, a guy I liked in NXT who had a really cool entrance, and I liked his work, comes to the main roster. They squeeze the juice out of him, and all that's left is a rotting husk. And they're like, "Oh, you didn't get over." What?
But did you? This is the thing. If you have a plant in your house and you don't water it, it's never going to grow. It's actually going to die. So this is what's happening. If you think that you can stick somebody in a feud with Sami Zayn and think that this is going to be an amazing career builder for someone, you're wrong. These feuds are terrible. What are you doing to a star like, Aleister Black. I mean, you literally, he got fired right in the middle of a push. So, he did the big attack. He's starting, like, I guess, the Father of Darkness angle he was bringing in. And I mean, they were giving him vignettes. They were building to his eventual, super return in ring as a single star and, with a new angle, something to hook onto. And then he's gone. But right. Strowman is another one. He seemed like he was going to be part of the furniture forever in the WWE. You always see him get these out of nowhere wins when you least expect it, even when he's on a downward slump. They always seem like they had some sort of confidence in the guy. And to see him go like this is almost a kick in the ass. I don't know.
So two major points, and then I want to move on to the next thing about the kind of the overall picture as to why this might be happening. But I think with Braun Strowman in particular, two things. One, there is no loyalty in the WWE, none, and nobody is safe. I mean, there might be 2 or 3 guys like I mentioned this on Twitter to Steve Cook of 401mania.com, because he kind of said something similar, and I said the only way you know your job is secure is if they are in love with you. They are in love with Roman Reigns. And somebody is in love with Seth Rollins. Those 2 guys have jobs for life until they don't want them anymore. But a lot of the guys on the roster, Braun Strowman is the best example of you're pushed today and gone tomorrow.
I was fully expecting to see Cesaro's name on that list. Honest to goodness, like when they jobbed him out to Roman Reigns, I'm like, oh, they're finishing him off. He's going back to ROH. But before we head into the other news, let's just do a quick thought of where each of these people are going. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Before you do that, because this is the real point that I want to make about Braun Strowman, because. Okay. Yeah, they pushed him to the moon. He was in the title picture almost incessantly. They just had him in a big match at WrestleMania, and now he's gone, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Okay, so, one, everything I just said about, like, you can never count on keeping your job in the WWE, even if you're a big main event guy, and you're always in the main event picture, because something like this can always happen to you. So, don't unpack. 2, here's what the speculation is on Braun Strowman. So if you'll recall about a year or so ago, they were throwing retard money at guys to keep them because they didn't want them to go to AEW because they didn't want to go through 95 and 96 WCW. And I guess partially 97. We're basically guys like Lex Luger, Rick Rude, is on a taped Raw and shows up live on Nitro. Shit like that kept happening. And it doesn't seem like the people who were working in the company at the time ever got over it. Like, they were, like, traumatized forever. So, you with me so far?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, long story short, they were throwing all kinds of money at guys like the Good Brothers to make sure they didn't go to AEW. It's now a year later. I don't, and Jim Cornette brings this up a lot. I don't think anyone in who makes decisions in WWE thinks AEW is a big threat.
Cool. Big mistake.
Well, here's why I agree with them. We're not seeing the wrestling base grow at all.
Right. At this point, well, right now you're not going to see it grow until we get back to live crowds, and then it's going to tell the true picture of what's happening.
Right.
Who really survived the pandemic with fans intact? That's what we're going to see right now, because it's going to play out in who's in that audience, what are the pay-per-view buy rates and all that stuff. AEW just came off a huge one on this pay-per-view we're about to cover, and that's the reason why we're covering it.
And I think it's like the best one to date. So I mean, that might be the canary in the coal mine, and as far as maybe right now and for the past year you didn't see AEW as a threat. But, who knows what happens in the next year. But they're making decisions now based on now and what they know to have happened in the past year. And in the past year, because Jim Cornette talks about this all the time on his podcast, it's the same million or so people watching wrestling every week.
It is. You're not growing the fan base. You're exactly right. It's the same people you're catering to. It's similar to the comic book industry as well. Mm-hmm. You've got a whole bunch of people who are making decisions on comic books, none of which who are reading the product, but it's still the same, 45 to 50-year-olds who are reading that product. It's the same people, and it has not grown, and that's a big problem.
Right. So if you're WWE and this is gonna, now we can kind of slide into the next thing. Though you wanted to take a detour, so hang on. Let me orchestrate.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
if you're the WWE and one, you spent shit tons of money, and this goes directly to Braun Strowman. I don't recall hearing his name as one of the people they threw retard money at to keep. Like his contract might have been up at some point, and they were like, no, here's stupid money. But I don't. We might not have heard about it because he might not have fought to leave either. He's not like an AJ Styles or like a Rey Mysterio or a Randy Orton or the Good Brothers who actively talked about leaving, and then suddenly they were staying again. Because I want you to picture this. I want you to picture this. Miro becomes your heavyweight champion of AEW. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Miro, whose finisher's the camel clutch. Okay. Braun Strowman's music plays. He beats him down, puts him in the camel clutch, picks him up off his back, slams him in the corner, drops the leg, fucking all over. Braun Strowman's your new Hulk Hogan at AEW. I'm telling you right now, we're that close to having that big breakout star moment for Strowman, and that is a huge error because this guy definitely has more potential than what WWE played out.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Chris. Like, I think they might have thrown him money to stay, but then he never really made any noise about wanting to leave. They just were like, hey, right. If you think back to when this might have happened, he was probably in the midst of a main event push at the time. So here's the thing, and this is the point. They may have cut him to re-sign him for less money.
Yeah,
they may have
there
cut,
you go. Yeah.
They may have cut him just because they knew they were overpaying him, and at this point, nobody cares who goes to AEW anymore. You're going to end up jobbing to Orange Cassidy.
That's quite possible. Or Cody Rhodes, even.
Yeah, or Cody. So that's more the point. Like, a year ago, they may have been afraid that Braun Strowman would go to AEW and things would be different. Pandemic, no change in the wrestling audience.
Right.
And then another factor that we're thinking that we're going to talk about momentarily, and it's like it's no longer important. Especially, and we'll come back to your thing about where do you think they'll go. But especially if the rumors are true that all of this fat cutting, all of this belt tightening, all of this rebudgeting is to make the company look ripe for sale.
Right on the money, exactly.
That is, I have an article here from Wrestling Inc. Let's see if they used Grammarly to spell it all correctly and make it readable. There has been a lot of recent speculation online and within WWE about a potential sale of the company. WWE has made a number of budget cuts as of late, with one round taking place in mid-April, as they did in April 2020, and another round coming in mid-May, and then today 6 releases, which we talked about. Khan was brought in August of 2020, and this latest corporate makeover is not the first action of his that has fueled rumors of a WWE sale to companies like Comcast, which is NBC Universal, Fox, not the Fox that Disney bought, but Fox that got left, which is basically Fox News and Fox Sports.
Yep.
Or Disney, which isn't allowed to buy any more companies, I'm pretty sure, by federal law. So I would take Disney out of there and replace it with Amazon. Khan appeared on Colin Cowherd's podcast to promote WrestleMania 37 back in April and discuss a potential sale. Cowherd pointed to how WWE is a turbulent, around-the-clock lifestyle, and WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon is at a point where he doesn't need the money these days. He then speculated that WWE must have had offers to sell and asked Khan why Vince doesn't let go of the company. Khan said he doesn't believe Vince wants to sell the company mainly because he built it, and because he's the best person to run it, and because what else would he do? Khan also said there was a WWE executive a few years back who asked where Vince was spending his summer, and Vince asked him what he was talking about as he planned to spend his summer in Stamford, Connecticut, at his WWE headquarters. Khan noted that Vince won't be the guy who's relaxing on a yacht somewhere. After today's release were announced, former WWE writer Dave Schilling tweeted about why he thinks WWE is preparing for sale. You don't cut talent assets on this level unless you are trying to maximize profits before a sale, Schilling wrote. He added, Braun is a legit top guy, a former world champion, and a merchandise mover. Aleister Black was getting a push last week on TV. This is very telling. Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, as opposed to Thugonomics, wrote a lengthy Twitter piece. By the way, that phrase, lengthy Twitter piece, makes me want to cut my wrists. Let me put that out there in the world. Lengthy Twitter piece makes me sad as somebody who reads books. On why he thinks a WWE sale is not happening. Foreboding that you're not allowed to use foreboding if you wrote it on Twitter, fuckface. Foreboding that WWE is preparing to sell is the stuff of cynical wrestling fan fatalism. Thurston wrote, New leadership came in August, and this is still year one. I would be shocked if WWE sells in Vince's lifetime, but Vince is in his fucking 80s. I mean, people don't live forever. Not even Vince McMahon.
Exactly.
Nick Khan indicated to Cowherd that Vince has no intention to sell. I cannot imagine Vince doing anything else. Layoffs, releases, and restructuring probably has more to do with Nick Khan and Christina Salen critiquing and reshaping what George Barrios and Michelle Wilson left behind. Every few years, WWE has cut employee and talent headcounts. All right, so let me go back to you. I know you're itching to talk about this. You have two different arguments here. They're gearing up for sale. Vince won't live forever. There's no reason to kind of hang on to it as this kind of a company where basically it's still private ownership, even though it's up for public stock, sort of a private-public amalgamation. And then you have the argument of no, it's just new heads wanting to put their stink on things. It's second verse, same as the first. No news here. There's nothing blowing up behind me. Nothing to look at. What do you think?
Well, I think the first telltale sign that we're not talking about was the sale of the WWE Network to Peacock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me, they hung all their hat, every single thing that they had in their arsenal on the WWE Network. So before all these, roster cuts, the big story was the end of the WWE Network as we know it and the sale to Peacock. That was huge.
Hang on. Did you say the end of the world as we know it?
Yes.
It's the end of the world as we know it. Yes, it's the end of the world. And I feel...
Great Big Sea sings that, not only REM. And they're local, by the way, so you can find that over on Amazon Music.
Did you say Grape Ape?
Grape Ape? Great Big Sea.
Oh, Great Big Sea.
Grape Ape? What the fucker? Anyway, let's talk about where these people are going. Sorry, Amazon Music, that was not a plug.
I have mentioned both of our ad sponsors and done no plugs.
All right, we're going to talk about Buddy Murphy and Santana Garrett. So I feel both people are MLW bound. What's your thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, I think Buddy Murphy is a guy that AEW looks for. Out of all the people that they cut, I think that Buddy Murphy was known for his work. And there's been a lot of, and I've never noticed this myself. I don't necessarily agree with it, but who knows? Maybe I'm crazy, or blind or both. But everyone's like, oh, Buddy Murphy looks like Kenny Omega. So the joke has been that he should go to New Japan as Kenny Omega, and and see how many Japanese figure that out, which I think is hilarious. By the way, I am all for this idea. But yeah, I think of all the people that they cut, the two that are most likely to go to AEW are Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. They both fit into the mold there of high work rate guys that have been known on national television. So, MLW I think is too far a drop for them.
Ooh, okay, all right, fair. Lana, I don't think there's any question.
So I want to talk about this real quick because this came up on Twitter amongst people that I talked to about wrestling. Again, myself and Steve Cook were kind of batting this back and forth, but this has been a big conversation. Everyone's like, will Lana go back to Miro? I'm going to say no, and she shouldn't. So no,
she should not. I agree.
No, I don't think I'm coming from left field when I say she shouldn't, and I think people who make decisions at AEW would agree with me. Miro is doing just fine on his own. He just cut the dead weight that was Kip Sabian and Penelope
Ford.
I almost said Penelope Cruz. I'm like, that's not right. She's not Mexican. Penelope Cruz is Mexican. Penelope Ford is not. These are statements of fact. Like he just cut them. Miro can talk.
Yes.
And here's what I said. He's not playing the Ivan Drago character anymore, so he doesn't need Brigitte Nielsen. He's doing just fine. He says shit like, the man who is afraid to die is going to meet the man who's not afraid to kill him. Yikes!
Yes, yikes is right.
No one fed him that line. That idiot came up with that on his own, and
that
it's
was
scary
really
as
good.
fuck. Yeah, it really is. you want to talk about authenticity in wrestling. That's it right there.
Yeah, he's really hit his stride. This is the best Miro or Rusev that we've seen, I think, at any point. This is where you want him. He's a killer heel. He's got a belt. He's wiping out big guys. He's getting wins, and I think that's what's important. You cannot build a character or get somebody over in the current WWE booking scheme of even Steven booking. It just can't happen. Nobody gets over in that way.
Not since he showed up to WrestleMania on a tank.
Oh, loved it.
Has he done anything as good as the thrashing he gave Darby Allin? And we'll talk about his match with Lance Archer, which was also pretty good for what it was. But that's my point. And so he doesn't need Lana. Don't put him with Lana. Lana would only detract from him because the problem with Miro the first time was, he's fun, but he's just Ivan Drago. He's the Emperor's hand. He's a bat to beat people over the head with. All everyone cared about was Lana's cleavage.
You're right on the money, and you don't want a distraction in that. I still think it's a good idea to bring her to AEW, but I think it'd be fun to play with the disconnection instead of having them together.
I would actually not even acknowledge it. Here's what I would do with Lana. I had two ideas. Okay, one, they just re-signed a contract with TNT for 900 hours of more television.
They did too. This is ridiculous. I mean, we have Dark, we have Dark Elevation, we have Dynamite, and now a brand new show headed to Friday night. How much more AEW do you need? I'll tell you, none. But anyway, we're getting more.
But it's coming. Rampage is coming, and so I don't think you want to burn out the talent that you have. I think you want to spread it around. So why not have Lana on Rampage as a backstage interviewer?
Jesus, Mark. They could have a show dedicated just to the Nightmare family and call it AEW Nightmare. There's that many people on this roster. Yeah,
between the Nightmare and the Factory, you have your own show. It's everything Eric Bischoff wanted with the NWO. But, I would say have her as a backstage interview. The other thing that you want her to do is maybe manage a stable full of heel girls who can't work. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. Keep her utterly separate from Miro. I wouldn't even have them cross paths in the back, in the backstage area.
Love it. And with so many shows, it's possible. You could literally not have them on the same show.
Yep. All right. What's your next one on your list?
Aleister Black. Let's go.
Short answer to move this along. AEW. I can't see where else he would go.
I'm thinking of a stint in New Japan towards AEW. And I think Strowman is definitely AEW bound. I don't see anywhere else.
Wouldn't it be funny if half of these people ended up in New Japan, then New Japan signs a talent share agreement with the WWE, and they're all back on Raw?
Holy shit. Well, what state will WWE be in at that point? That's the question. Who will own it? I think these are all kinds of stuff hanging in the balance here. So,
this could all happen by August. This could happen by
literally.
SummerSlam. They all get signed by New Japan. This talent agreement gets signed, and they're all back on WWE television, but paid by New Japan. Because isn't that really what's happening with TNA and AEW, where you have guys showing up on each other's shows, but AEW doesn't have to pay the Good Brothers, who are on fucking Dynamite every week.
You're right on the money. And finally, I think, we left out poor Ruby Riott. I think Ruby Riott is perfect Impact fodder. What do you think?
Yeah, Ruby Riott will end up in either MLW or Impact.
Yeah, and I think she'll do well. Because I don't think there's an issue. She's got a lot of love inside that company, man, and she's definitely played her cards when it came to getting support and fan support. So I think there's a lot to be said about Ruby Riott. I think we'll see a lot more of her in the future. But anyway, that's where the folks we see them going. Hopefully, we are right on the money. But
you don't want to talk about Santana Garrett?
Oh, actually, Santana Garrett, I think, is definitely. I love her, to be quite honest with you. I think she's great. So she was a TNA girl, and she got a mild push. She was also in a couple of these independent women's federations, and was top of the food chain in those. I can't remember the name of the companies right now, but I think she's a super talent that nobody ever seems to use right. I would hope that she lands in Impact and just ends up on AEW eventually. Hopefully that's the deal. Who knows?
Yeah, my vote would be, and I feel like people are going to hear this and be like, well, that's not really good analysis when all you say is everyone goes to AEW. But I honestly think Santana Garrett will end up on some form or another, because again, you need talent to fill up all these hours of television.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
How long is Dark Elevation now? 12 hours?
Jesus, it did. I think one of the last checks that I ever did, it went 18 to 20 matches per show. That's a lot of matches.
Yeah, that's a lot of men slapping meat and women.
Wait a minute.
So they some people say they might be the talent roster is overblown in AEW. Some others might say they don't have enough to fill the hours of television they got.
Yeah, well, you don't. Well, guess what? They got just a nice helping hand of talent to pull from. So, I mean, depending on, do these guys have any non-compete contracts? I don't know. Are they ready to go? Can they show up tomorrow? Because we've got what's coming up next? Oh, All In for AEW. So, guess what? What would be bigger than a Strowman appearance? I'm telling you, it would be huge.
I'll be curious to see what he does, because again, I don't know. Last thing I'm going to say on this, and then we're going to transition right into Double or Nothing review.
Don't do a Christian Cage. Just bring him out and have him walk out. No, Strowman needs to come on like gangbusters and mess some shit up.
So, there was a Twitter thing that happened with Braun Strowman a few months back.
Oh, yes.
I don't remember who said what, but Braun Strowman's reaction was essentially, I showed up to the Performance Center with no money, living in my car, and look at me now. And it garnered a negative reaction because it wasn't CM Punk who said it. It was fucking Braun Strowman.
Exactly.
And everyone, took it the wrong way and got mad. And, even Jim Cornette was like, you're a douchebag. But one of the things it kind of signaled is that he might be like a Warrior Goldberg kind of guy who's not, in his heart, in love with the wrestling business. It was something he did for money. And he took it seriously. He showed up to work. I mean, from what I understand, other than being maybe a big dummy, Braun Strowman showed up for work and did what he was told. Whether or not it worked, is a whole other story. But he was a dutiful employee. And I think from his point of view was it was a job that he did to the best of his ability as he was trained to do it. But now that this has happened, if you're Braun Strowman psychologically, do you look at the wrestling industry with love in your heart and go, well, I'll just find another place to work because I love it so? Or do you go, fuck this noise? Dave Bautista can be in the movies and he has the acting range of a mop. What has he got that I ain't got? Why can't I throw people around on the set of Blade Runner?
He would be a massive movie heel. I think he'd be fantastic. I think you could really do. Who would be a better villain as a Bebop and Rocksteady in a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle than Braun Strowman? Yeah. Let's be fair. That's him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's Bebop.
Dave Bautista. Everyone looks at Dave Bautista now and oh, he's Drax. He's an Army of the Dead. He's but one of his first roles was background goon in James Bond.
Yes, Inspector.
So. And a lot of his early roles, they didn't give him a tremendous amount of dialogue, and what they did was mumble peg. So now he's getting big time roles, but it's big. But it's like The Rock and John Cena. It's roles suited to their ability as actors. Right now that people see that their presence is, and that and that people will come to see them in stupid movies. So
I think Army of the Dead was a super smart move by Batista, by the way. I think that is exactly where, you want to see him as that larger than life video game character, with the giant Gatling gun mowing down, zombies. I think that's his wheelhouse, and I think fans would attach their wagon to that. You know what I mean? I think he could be a Schwarzenegger style breakout star if if they continue down that path.
But everyone kind of points at The Rock and John Cena and now Batista and look at these guys. They were WWE big time wrestlers and now they're big time actors. Everyone forgets about Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash was
Super Shredder.
Yeah, well, Kevin Nash was in Boogie Nights. Kevin Nash was in The Punisher. Think about that scene in The Punisher where he walks in with the Popeye shirt.
Oh, terrible.
But why can't that be Braun Strowman?
Anytime, it can be. Anytime.
So, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I think Braun Strowman leaves wrestling. I don't think he goes to work anywhere else. I don't think he goes to AEW. I think the situation... I think unless the New Japan thing happens where they're come in, because you're going to be on the WWE television anyway, and we're going to throw you retard money. I think that under those circumstances, he probably goes, fine, because I like money. But other than that, I don't think he goes anywhere. I don't think he loves the business. I don't think he wants to be a wrestler per se. I think he wants to pay his mortgage.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think, you know what, the more that you say it, I think New Japan may be his wheelhouse. If they brought him in as a straight up killer, a murderer, like within 3 minutes type of match in New Japan, I think this guy would get over, and I think that he would have definitely money waiting for him in the U.S. after a year there. So, smart move.
AEW Double or Nothing, brought to you by Grammarly. We have spent 40 minutes on this subject. We're going to do this in 20 minutes. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively, unlike what I just did. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes, while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and reminding you that Phillips' first name is Tom. Also suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork to download Grammarly for free. All right. 50 words or less. Serena Deeb versus Riho on the kickoff.
I always got time for Serena Deeb. NWA title match. Serena Deeb versus, AEW's favorite, Kenny Omega's girlfriend, Riho. And, I mean, they do everything in the world to push Riho. So I was, all these near falls, I honestly thought that they were going to put the belt on Riho, because you never know when they're going to push this girl, and they always give her this quick out-of-nowhere win over a high-profile AEW superstar. So, the fact that Serena Deeb actually won this match, and, with a half crab, with a tap-out, was a little bit of a shock. But you know what? 14 minutes of great action here. NWA title on the line. I thought it was great, and I thought Serena Deeb playing that heel role really, really worked. I think this girl got something, and they need to, assimilate her away from the NWA or whatever they call the NWA now, that one show that they film a year, and they, spread out that tape library over the course of the year. I think she needs to be AEW proper, and I think there's a lot more in Serena Deeb than we can see here. What do you think?
I like this match a lot. I was pleasantly surprised that Riho didn't win, because doesn't Riho win everything?
She does.
My understanding is Riho is going to be in the United States for a while, so I think we're going to see a lot more of her on TV, which is the other reason I'm shocked they just didn't put the title on her. But maybe maybe she has bigger fish to fry. They just put the title, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, on Dr. Britt Baker. I don't know if you know this or not, but she's a dentist. And and she's going to need good, solid faces to work. So this might have been, lose this one so that we can work you up to All Out against Dr. Britt Baker. And we'll put the
what do
title
you think
back,
of that?
And we'll put the title back on you where it belongs. By the way, I love you, says Kenny Omega. So this was a 9 out of 10 for me. Not that it was like a 5-star Tokyo Dome Dave Meltzer classic or anything, but when I say 9 out of 10, I have really almost nothing to complain about. This was solid. It wasn't sloppy. It was tight. My only, the 1 out of 10 is I think it went too long, and that it was indicative of this entire goddamn show.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest complaint about this entire show, outside of the the mega hot crowd, which I'll start with, and it really helped this women's title match too, because they were right into this product from the get-go, and just seeing a live capacity audience in Daily Place was something else, man. This was what you wanted for your return to full schedule.
Yeah, I've been watching. I watch a lot of live boxing and live wrestling, and I will say this: they've had crowds at NXT. Again, I watched that all day yesterday. This crowd, the crowd for some recent boxing matches that I've seen, I didn't realize how much I would miss it until it was gone, and then it came back. Because exactly. I got used to it during the pandemic. I got used to Top Rank fights happening in Bob Arum's living room with no crowd. That's a joke. It wasn't in Bob Arum's living room, but it's definitely quiet. BT Queensberry and BT Sports brings you live boxing from the library. What the fuck, someone yelling "shush" at you. It's but I got used to it. Like, okay, this is where we are right now, and then it didn't come out of nowhere. It's been a gradual shift to crowds back, but it still feels weird. But a good weird, it feels like a bad hand job where it's like it still feels good, but it doesn't feel right.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a certain match at this in this show where if I'm WWE and I'm watching this crowd reaction, I'm going, my God, that is molten lava Steve Austin style heat, and I'll tell you exactly when that point hits, and it's pretty early in the show too.
So every single one of these matches needed like 5 minutes shaved off of them. Almost.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
2 to 5 minutes shaved off of every single one of these matches. I'm just going to say this, and then we're going to move on and kind of speed through this. AEW, dear AEW, please dear AEW, please keep your pay-per-views to 3 hours.
That's all you need.
If you start at 8 o'clock, end at 11. This doesn't need to be 4 hours. It doesn't need to go to midnight. Just fucking stop. 3 hours. That's it. Have we learned nothing from 12-hour WrestleManias? Have we?
I was at one, I can tell you.
I'm still at one. Trying to get...
We're still at 33 together in the same building. We're actually recording from our seat, waiting for Undertaker and Reigns to end.
I don't know about you, but I'm cold and in the rain and waiting for my Uber in New York. Speaking of which, speaking of cold and in the rain, Adam Page defeated a Mortal Kombat character named Brian Cage. What the fuck was he wearing? Was that outfit was that the same outfit that was left over? Did someone steal it from WWE and AEW's Lost Treasures fucking garage that the Legion of Doom wore at WrestleMania 15?
Wasn't this like Jax from Mortal Kombat hat, or even Cyborg from Teen Titans? You know what I mean? Or Justice League, I should say. I liked it. Shut your mouth. I'm a gimmick guy. I really like it. I thought it was cool. You got two young bucks here. You got Brian Cage, who it baffles me why this guy is not a champion in this fucking promotion. Well, I know he's got the FTW championship. That doesn't count. And then you got Hangman Adam Page, who you can say what you want, but he's been super consistent, and they've kept the push behind him. They've kept this guy hot all through the pandemic era. So if my money is on somebody dethroning Kenny Omega, I think it's eventually going to be their boy, Adam Page.
Yeah, that's been said from the start that this is all building towards Adam Page kicking out of the one-winged fairy. Yep. Angel, whatever. Hi, Jim Cornette fans.
Fairy. Dear God.
I just wanted to talk wrestling, this asshole. Now, look, it was a good enough match, but my two complaints about it are A, I don't care what you say, Chris Bailey. How about that? Brian Cage Brian Cage can put on whatever stupid Mortal Kombat cosplay outfit that he wants. One, he looked like he walked out of a comic convention. Two, he keeps losing matches. Did he fuck Tony Khan's wife? I don't understand what's happening with him.
Oh, my God. So let's talk about the match, I guess. I mean, lots of back and forth action, buckle bombs. You've got, all these high power moves. And then it ends up with Ricky Stark and stupid Hook coming down to ringside. And, of course, they throw the belt into Cage. Cage, instead of taking the belt to use it for his advantage, throws it back.
Yeah.
And says, I don't need this. I don't need you guys.
They're turning him face.
Yes, which
Weirdly.
is okay, which is cool. So then, he throws Hangman off the top rope and he yells, and all of a sudden, Hangman comes back and hits him with a buckshot lariat for the win. Yep. And then you got Taz on commentary going, "You son of a bitch!"
Who is Brian Cage going to feud with in what's left of the Taz family? Because Ricky Starks has a broken neck. Hook would mean nothing.
He'll murder Powerhouse Hobbs. He'll murder Powerhouse Hobbs in a statement win.
Yeah.
And he'll end up in a feud with Miro. That's where this is headed.
Probably.
12 minutes. Decent match.
Needed to be 10 minutes or less.
Yes, sir.
Next match, one of the best matches on the card, probably my favorite match. The Young Bucks. By the way, watch wrestling with children. It's the best experience ever. It's still real to them, and they react appropriately, unlike us douchebags.
Yes. Soiled marks.
Yeah, who react the opposite way of the intention. So the Young Bucks are now douchebag heels, and my kids fucking hated them. Oh my
it's
God.
exactly
My
right.
daughter almost jumped through the television to punch one of the Young Bucks in the face.
Well, listen, they're using all the hot buttons too. Like Nick Jackson now has the nose ring. They're sporting the super expensive Nike shoes. You know,
It
what
was
I mean?
Matt
They're
Jackson
being
then that she
total
wanted to.
assholes.
It was Matt Jackson and his constantly gyrating crotch that she wanted to punch. Like I don't think my 10-year-old feminist, peaceful, loving daughter has ever wanted to punch someone in the dick so hard in her life than Matt Jackson. She was mad.
Well,
and-
on the opposite. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And while my son, one big John Moxley fan, you're welcome. Hashtag parenting. Also, kind of like his father, kind of favors the heels, like kind of like douchebaggy behavior. Also, just fucking hated the Young Buck. They were like, why don't these guys get killed? Why don't Eddie Kingston? Why don't John Moxley and that homeless guy he's wrestling with? Literally, that's what my son said. Just murder these two people. And I was like, whoo, you're 7.
Well, I tell you what, if they were Moxley fans, they certainly loved this because this was an unbelievable pop. So that Moxley and Kingston come out to Wild Thing,
Yeah.
and this was the part in the match, man, that I had goosebumps. The crowd was molten hot for this. They were singing along to him. These guys looked like they were megastars. And man, you talk about a guy in Eddie Kingston who's hitching his train to the right wagon. This is superstar status for these two guys, and what a match they had.
This
nice
is like
back
Steve,
and forth.
This is like Steve Austin and Foley, or The Rock and Foley, Kingston and Moxley together.
It was unbelievable, and I think Eddie Kingston has opened a lot of people's eyes because he is mega money on that microphone, and just hitching his wagon to John Moxley is just adding to this guy's profile. So they are creating a guy from the ground up here. I know Kingston has had years and years and years on the independent scene, but this is his moment, man. This is where the closet opens. I love this match.
Yeah,
it was really strong.
Yeah, look, if any match had to go over 20 minutes, I was glad it was this one, though I still think it went a little bit longer. A little less than 20 minutes was probably better. But I'll tell you, like, I've said before, I don't think the Young Bucks are believable, but they made me believe in this match. But they made me believe because I think they work better. They're kind of like a heel version of the Rockers in that era of the WWE, in the sense that the Rockers got over by being faster and more athletic than, Powers of Pain, just big, these big muscly tag teams that they had to deal with Demolition, even the Hart Foundation, like they were, bigger than those two guys.
Absolutely.
But what made the Rockers catch fire was they kind of ran around all these bigger teams and made it hard to catch them, in kayfabe I'm talking about. Not,
Yes.
like the way the psychology of their matches was, we're too fast, we're too young, we're too athletic, you can't catch us, and we're going to hit you from every angle. That's what the Young Bucks did in this match, but they did it like assholes. And that's
They did, yes.
and that's what made me love it. Like, every time Eddie Kingston and John Moxley got an edge in the match, the Young Bucks took it away from them. Like, the Young Bucks were never in serious peril, but they kept working together to get themselves out of it. And John Moxley and Eddie Kingston couldn't figure out a way to break them apart fast. Like, the psychology of this was, anytime John Moxley or Eddie Kingston tried to win the match, there was always a Young Buck there to stop it.
Right. You're right on the money. And, of course, this one won. The Young Bucks win this match in about, 21 minutes, I think it was, to retain the AEW tag titles. But the end sequences is what made it all. I mean, they tried over and over, near fall after near fall, with trying to put away John Moxley, and they couldn't put him down. They put him down with super kicks. He kicks out. They give him, like, the super kick party. He kicks out of that. Then they go to 1 BTE. Nope. 2 BTEs. Nope. They end up with doing 4, and then they finally pin Mox. They don't pin Eddie Kingston, which would be the most obvious thing in the whole thing if you're looking at this. If you said someone that, Kingston and Moxley were going to lose to the Bucks, you're going to say, okay, Eddie Kingston's going to take the fall, obviously. But no, man, it was John Moxley actually took the fall for this one, and Young Bucks go over, and man, this was really good. This was easily Man, this was 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5 out of 4 for me. The crowd was just super into it all. I was into it all.
Yeah.
I was popping for the near falls, and I shouldn't be. I'm a jaded wrestling fan, damn it. Why do I believe that Jon Moxley is going to, not kick out? But, man, it was a shocker. I loved it. Crowd into it. I was into it. Wild Thing all the way.
I don't think match quality-wise it's going to get better than it. As I'm looking at these matches and kind of thinking about it, I honestly just thought that this was the best worked match, on the show.
Yep.
Jungle Boy won the Casino Battle Royal. So
hold on, let's start with Max Caster and his rap.
Dude, I shushed my entire family for that. I was like, everyone shut the fuck up. Max Caster is on the mic.
Caster comes out, and poor Christian Cage is in the ring. And this bothered him. He said Christian used to be cool, but only when he had an edge.
I died, Chris. I'm not gay, but I'm in love with Max Caster.
Oh, man.
I would absolutely, if I were polyamorous, and I could have more, and I could have more than one husband or wife, I would marry Max Caster. I'm so in love with him. He's so good.
So the whole idea behind it, the Casino Battle Royal, for those who don't know, is basically a modified Royal Rumble. So we have people come in groups or in card sets, okay? Every 2 minutes. So you get, we started out with Christian, Matt Sydal, Powerhouse Hobbs, Natural Dustin Rhodes, and Max Caster. So this continued on throughout the match. But the whole idea behind it is regular over-the-top battle royal. You must be dropped to the outside to be eliminated. But in Royal Rumble rules, in groups. So it's kind of different, kind of same. But yeah, let's talk about this one.
Let me just say this, and then I'll let you have at it. This was every battle royal I've ever seen until the very end, and I was getting frustrated, and I was all set to tear this apart because I'm like, I never pushed Jungle Boy. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And then, oh my God, he fucking won. He fucking won, man.
And not only did he win, but, man, the crowd was ready to receive him. This was his moment, man. I mean, they gave him all the hope spots in the world where you thought, okay, this time he's gone. I honestly thought this was set up for Christian to win. But when I look back, they pretty well had Christian, pegged, even in the commentary, that he was going to be the winner of this thing. You know what I mean? He said that, he wants to launch himself right to the top. So, they were pretty well keeping the eyes off Jungle Boy, which should have been your first telltale sign. But it ended up in the middle there, right at the very end, Jungle Boy versus Christian. And what a cool end to this, man. Because, Christian, number one, got to, he went for his kill switch, and Jungle Boy ended up winning. And, man, this place came absolutely unglued when Jungle Boy was celebrating. And then you brought out Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, and then right at the very end, Christian walks up to him, and he looks like he's super upset. But then he turns it into a hug, and then he's talking into his ear, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, goosebumps again for the second one. And I just loved it. And Jungle Boy, I said before, is a star, and I'm telling you right now, you saw it right here. He's the TNT champion. He needs to be.
Yes, indeedy.
We're back, and we got Anthony Ogogo with Mark's favorite, QT Marshall, against Chris Sheehan's favorite wrestler, Cody Rhodes, and he's held up by Arn Anderson. Now, Cody comes out. What is this? What is he wearing here? Is this... It looked like a lost robe from Sin Cara or something. I don't know what Cody Rhodes had on here, but what was this?
I don't know.
It's definitely a tribute to something. It's a Marvel superhero something. I'm not sure what it is. Someone's going to definitely correct me on this, but I don't know.
I still can't get over the whole, Cody and the first interracial baby thing.
Well, that's what they're doing. They're actually building a character around the coming of his child, which is, I don't really know what to think of that, Mark. But anyway, he's Cody
ridiculous.
Rhodes. Yeah, Cody is in the ring tonight with Anthony Ogogo, former boxer. Talk about his boxing career. What do you know about Anthony Ogogo?
I don't know anything either, to be honest with you. Like I said, I've been keeping up better with AEW than I have NXT, but a lot of the factory stuff I tend to fast forward through. So I knew about the Anthony Ogogo super punch to the belly.
Yes.
I knew that he was British, and I've heard just from podcasts and stuff about the feud. And I listened to Cody Rhodes' ridiculous promo. Look, let me just cut to the chase here so that we don't waste a lot of time on this. I would much rather go back and talk about Jungle Boy winning the Battle Royal and how happy that made me, skip this match entirely. Here's how they could have not gone 4 hours. Cut this match from the show. I mean, have it be either save it for one of their special Dynamite episodes or just have it be on Dynamite. But this to me wasn't a pay-per-view. Anthony Gogo not ready for prime time. This match not ready for pay-per-view. Cody Rhodes versus The Factory led by QT Marshall couldn't be less interesting if they included the Dark Order.
Whoa, wait a minute here. Good God. No, you know what? This was basically your boxer versus wrestler. So you got Anthony Ogogo, whose finisher is, the shot to the boiler, the big punch to the guts. And, he's doing everything to hurt the ribs of Cody Rhodes. And, of course, Cody is, fighting back and forth, hitting bulldogs, hitting high cross bodies, slams, you name it, trying to keep him, wrestler-based. And it's just a punch fest. And it doesn't really work well. But one thing that I will point out in this one was the ending. Cody wins this one in 11 minutes with a vertebraker. What in the Christ name is Cody using the vertebraker to finish a boxer for? Is there... What is happening? And he tries to fire up the crowd after winning, and they are... You know what? Either they're really worn out from the first 3 matches for all the cheering, or they literally are ready to... they're sick and tired of Cody Rhodes, which I think may be the case.
I don't think I'm off base here. I think most people are like me and I think Cody Rhodes versus someone people give a shit about, people will react in kind, and people will react kindly to Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes versus a guy from the Performance Center, led by a trainer from Performance Center that doesn't have at least the fan cachet and appreciation and legacy of Shawn Michaels. Why would it? This is one of those weird ones where it's such an insular bubble thing. It's we're going to tell this really fun story about how QT Marshall doesn't appreciate Cody Rhodes and he turns on him, and how Cody Rhodes mistreated QT, and it's a big revenge, turning on the teacher kind of a thing. And now all of QT Marshall's students are turning on Cody Rhodes, and it's nobody cares. Nobody cares about QT Marshall or these Performance Center guys.
This is what you prop up Dark with, or Elevation. You know what?
Right.
These are the storylines that needs to be threaded through. Something with a little bit of consistency, something that's on the low end of things that you won't see on a pay-per-view, but still builds a few stars. This did nothing for either guy. I mean, it was a meaningless feud. I don't think anybody got the stakes. They built up a Go-Go as a boxer. So, they're trying to celebrate his boxing history that nobody seems to know anything about, Mark. So I don't know. This is not Mike Tyson in that ring. Let's put it that way.
No. God, that's a whole other subject.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know if I want to see Mike Tyson in a ring anymore. Boy.
The only match besides the Young Bucks and Jon Moxley, whose time I didn't have a problem with, and was the right time for what they did in this, was Miro versus Lance Archer. Which my favorite part of this match was Miro throwing the bag that allegedly had a snake in it. I died laughing. I was on the that's the problem. Miro's supposed to be this hated, scary heel, but then he does shit throw a snake. And I guess because Roberto Duran once punched a horse, and I'm now obsessed with it. Apparently, I think animal abuse is funny. Hashtag at Mark Radulich on Twitter, everyone. No, Miro portrays such a dick and such an evil guy that him throwing a snake to me is funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, but weird thing about this one, it's heel versus heel. Well, I don't know if you put Lance Archer in the... I guess he's a tweener. I guess he's one of these guys who is riding the line, because you don't know... He attacks everybody. He's not picking on, just faces. He's picking on heels. Anyone who's in his way, and it looked like Miro just crossed his path. Now, this one ended in about 10 minutes when, basically Archer passes out to the camel clutch.
Mm-hmm.
And... if you're going to continue this feud, or at least keep Archer in, title contendership, I don't know what we did here. Is this the wrong finish, for the first match? Or are they going to do, a best of 5 or a best of 7? How does this end properly for either man? I don't know. But I think pushing Miro, this was a statement win he needed as TNT champion, so I loved it.
Yeah, I loved Miro versus Lance Archer. I thought they worked really, really. Like Lance Archer, for such a big dude, has kind of that Undertaker quality to him in terms of physicality, where he can like jump over the top rope. Like he's not, a big stiff like a Giant Gonzalez, or Big Show, where he has no dynamic athletic ability. He, like Lance Archer, they talked about him being a football player, and I'm like, yeah, now I see it. Yeah, he definitely can move like a football player in there. And Miro, who has more of like a bodybuilder body structure to him, like it was a great monster clash, and they kept it short and inoffensive, and Miro looked strong. It's like, if I had to complain about something, I just wish, kind of like Brian Cage, I wish Lance Archer and Brian Cage got more wins than losses. But hey, if you got to put Miro over a big monster, a good quality competitive big monster, you're not going to get much better on this roster than Lance Archer, so I'll accept it.
I don't think you need to be trading wins back and forth. I think you just need to move on to the next guy for Miro here. I think getting him logged in a feud with Lance Archer would probably be a mistake for both guys, honestly. I think, Archer needs to move on and pick a fight with somebody else, something major, but they're pushing that signature win, man. They're pushing that camel clutch. So picture Braun Strowman in the camel clutch. He's coming out of it. He's hulking up. He's winning that belt. Just picture that. I'm telling you, it's coming. It's coming. I'm putting money on it.
Okay. Dr. Britt Baker with Rebel, not Reba, defeated Mulan in 17 minutes and 20 seconds. I mean, they are pushing the shit out of Dr. Britt Baker. I hope she has a nice long run with the title. I said before she'll probably end up dropping it to Riho again, but I hope not. I hope they keep it on her. I think she deserves it. She's done great.
That would be a big mistake. This is homegrown talent here in Britt Baker. This is one of the, authentic people that they pushed. And, man, what an ovation. And the people are into Britt Baker, you know what I mean, right now. They managed to do a Herculean task of getting this super green girl over. And the dentist gimmick is actually working. The whole Rebel thing is working. But Sheeta, interestingly enough, did not work tonight. She seemed like she could not give a shit. I'm losing the belt. I'm just going to slop fuck my way through this entire fest. She didn't give a shit. She couldn't pull off a body slam, any of her moves, like almost everything. She screwed up like 5 moves back to back, like simple suplexes, like she wasn't even putting any effort in. Really, like I love Britt Baker. Britt Baker ends up winning this, by the way, AEW Women's Championship, brand new champion. Loved it. Yeah, I think the fans really enjoyed it too, despite being a heel.
In a weird twist of fate, you were the one that was negative on this match because I didn't think it was that bad, but you were like, no, Radulich, you don't know wrestling. This was sloppy as shit. And I'm like, okay. God.
Everything. Like, she screwed up a knee strike. It was really bad. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? Is she sandbagging this or what? But, Jim Cornette is, constantly criticizing Sheeta, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it all came to pass here, man. But anyway, poor old Sheeta's time is over, and you got her in the lockjaw for a tap-out win. How about that? Do you think that Sheeta's ever going to have that strap around her waist again? I'll tell you, nope.
Yeah, I really like this match. I didn't notice how sloppy it was, but I'll take your word for it. My daughter was pissed that Britt Baker won. She hates her. Go back and listen to our St. Patrick's Day commentary where my daughter, every other word out of her mouth was, why does this person have to be in this match?
Yeah, exactly.
It was really funny. But like the Young Bucks, it's good to see heel be a heel.
Yes. Agreed. And that's what you actually got, but the fans were still behind her. And I think that, you got a lot of cheers when Baker won. Was it because they weren't into Sheeta? No, I think that the fans recognized that it was Britt Baker's time, and they were accepting of her win. And not only that, you had, in an emotional moment, this actually, made my bottom lip quiver. You saw Tony Schiavone come up, literally get up off the desk and just hug her. Now, these two have been in a, a little bit of a feud. She's basically Hulk Hogan's Mean Gene. You know what I mean? That's what's going on there. You got, he's the Mean Gene Okerlund to Britt Baker, basically. And I really loved that moment, and I thought it really put a stamp on this one. Emotional win, well-deserved win by Britt Baker, and I'm one of her biggest critics, but I thought she pulled this off and well-deserved right there. So she's grown on me.
I will say this. I think it's a very interesting point that you made that, I generally think Sheeta puts on good matches, but I'm wondering if you're right. If like she knew she was dropping the title to Britt Baker, and she was like, "Well, who cares? I don't.
Yep, not interested. No,
I'm not a giving person. I'll do my best when I'm winning, but if I'm losing, you work harder. I don't need to work hard for you." Which is kind of a shit attitude if that's the case. All right. So this next one was a Jennifer Lopez video.
Oh, this was beautiful. I don't care what you say. You can kiss my ass. I love this match. One of my favorites of the night.
You're such a Sting mark, which I'm not going to make fun of you for, because if this had been the Ultimate Warrior, I would be the one making excuses.
Well, listen. You got to understand, as a Sting mark, us Sting fans have never, since TNA, have never really gotten classic Sting. Okay, his time in WWE was just him getting beaten, looking old, put in like horrible positions, not booked properly, jobbed out every chance they got. It was ridiculous. That's not how we wanted for him to end his career. Then he became Darby Allin's, basically second. And they're taking on, loudmouth Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page here. And I don't think anybody expected anything out of Sting. Maybe, a little stinger splash in the corner or something. No, sir. You got to see full-on Sting, and it was really, really, this was an emotional moment for me because I really started to get the tingles, man, and nothing really does that to me for a while. Well, this pay-per-view did it twice to me, but this one did it again. When Sting ripped off that shirt and just went back into old Sting mode, doing his dive and his, all his moves, man, he looked fantastic. He dropped some weight. He's back in decent shape where he doesn't have to lounge around in a T-shirt. And I loved it. I think he wore the T-shirt as like a little bit of a ploy, saying, "Hey, I'm old man Sting," and then all of a sudden he whips it off, and you're like, "Hey, he doesn't look terrible."
I can't remember if it was an episode of Half in the Bag or somewhere else where I saw this, where someone pointed out on one of the YouTube video channels that I watch that if people move around enough, you won't notice the person in the center not moving.
Fair enough. You got basically people. You got bump machines, okay? Mm-hmm. So Paige and Scorpio Sky are bump machines. So obviously they created a lot of motion for Sting, but this was the right deal, man. And they put Sting over and not Darby, which is even better. It's like someone said, finally, let's give this legend his due and let him have a signature win and make people go home feeling good.
So, I only really have two things about this. I'm not going to take it away from anyone that enjoyed it. It wasn't offensive or insulting or incompetent. It was solid, and it was one of those, for guys like you, this was a feel-good moment. But for someone like me who doesn't care about Sting at all, two things I know.
Say what you mean, man. Say what you mean.
He's not the Ultimate Warrior. It doesn't matter to me. There are two things about this match that stood out to me. One, as I said before, and you just commented on, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky bumped the fucking shit out of themselves for Sting. They ran around. They threw themselves all over the place. Honestly, the MVPs of this entire pay-per-view are Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. They put the work in, man. They bumped like Dolph Ziggler and Shawn Michaels combined against Hulk Hogan.
They did, man. Oh, against Hulk Hogan.
Okay. They were like bumping on their heads and bouncing across the ring. Ethan Page bumped on the mat, hit the moon, came back down again for Sting. I mean, they were.
They wanted to make him look good, and I think that's what was missing for years with Sting. I don't think anybody gave him the respect that he deserved coming up through. And I think it was a real shame, but these guys at least honored his legacy and made him look good in that ring. And I think that's the whole point of you as a wrestler, is to make your opponent look good. And they certainly did that. Good job, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. There you go.
Totally agree. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Ethan Page. Fucking, who threw? Was it Bam Bam Bigelow who threw Spike Dudley into the crowd in ECW?
Yes.
Okay, this was worse.
With that press slam?
Yeah.
I mean, poor
Ethan Page is not
Darby
Bam Bam Bigelow, who has a wide base and is super strong. Wide base. Listen to me. He's fat. But how strong is, say what you want about Ethan Page, and I'm not going to make fun of the Karate Man thing anymore because he earned my fucking respect in this match. Because not only did he bump like a stupid ass throughout this entire thing for Sting, but then he press slams Darby Allin over his head and throws him. And that was not, like, from where Bam Bam threw Spike Dudley was not that far of a distance from the crowd.
Exactly.
He threw hard Darby Allin. Like, Darby Allin may have pushed off a bit, but that was all Ethan Page. And Ethan Page cleared a good distance. And Darby Allin went down like a sack of bricks. Like, he didn't go far enough to where his momentum slowed down, and he kind of, and he was like easy to catch. He went down like someone shot him out of a cannon.
No, he met Earth first. It was crazy.
Yeah, like he crashed like a space shuttle, coming down out of the sky, man. Like, I felt bad for the people. Like, I guess it was his brother. I felt bad for the people he landed on. Like, he probably legitimately hurt somebody doing that.
It was crazy.
Because again, go back to the Spike Dudley one. They caught him. They caught Spike Dudley. It was like a crowd surf situation.
Yes.
He went in there and they caught him, and then they passed him around like a fucking blunt. Darby Allin came down like a missile, and everyone died. There was a crater left in that front row.
It was, yeah. There was a lot of spectacle in this one, and that bump is going to be one that they're going to be playing for years. It's a moment, as Christine would say.
That needs to open Dynamite from now on. It's like
that's the highlight
4,
reel.
3, 2, 1, boom, and Darby Allin goes into the front row.
It should be Darby Allin breaking through the Dynamite logo.
Yeah,
really good.
Darby Allin's not going to live to see 30, but but I'll tell you, his 20s are something to behold.
Yeah, the kid's doing good, man. Let's take your head off to him. The first time I saw him on Dynamite, and I'm like, who is this skinny ass motherfucker? But no, he's definitely pulled his weight. I tell you that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, this next one.
Hold on. I'm going to stop you for a second. I want you to tell me. Now, this is on paper. Kenny Omega is taking on Orange Cassidy and Pac. Who's going to win? Kenny Omega. That's it. I honestly don't think that this was worthy of an AEW title match. Now, go ahead. Fill it all in. Trash.
I mean, I thought they all worked together. I thought Orange Cassidy had some good hope spots. I thought he had... I thought he bumped good for Kenny Omega and Pac. I think Kenny Omega versus Pac in like a 2 out of 3 falls match was the better match to make, and maybe that's still one that's coming. I think Kenny Omega and Pac could have a good full throttle best bout machine type match. Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy, anyone versus Orange Cassidy is going to be a different, is going to be a horse of a different color. So I'm glad this wasn't the main event. It didn't deserve to be, I think you're right about that. But, I mean, was it wrestled competently? I think so.
Yes. Oh, no question. So the action in this match, of course, Kenny Omega wins. And I think, who does he put away? He puts away Orange Cassidy, does he not?
Yes.
Is that who he beats here?
Who was the person who honestly is the person who needed to take the pin in this because he's kind of bulletproof right now, so who cares?
Right. And I mean, you had all kinds of stuff. I mean, you talk about moves. I mean, you had everything in the world. I mean, Pac was putting out his best work. I mean, you had V triggers, you had, dragon suplexes, you had release dragon suplexes, all kinds of top rope moves, Michinoku drivers, you name it, all the classic stuff, top rope falcon arrows. And it didn't mean a shit to me. Like, I was just like, I know who's winning this match. I don't believe anything that's going on here.
It was also way too long. This was almost 30 minutes, Chris. This was almost 30 minutes.
Way too long.
Yeah.
And I think the crowd was super into it at first. I mean, I think they gave, Orange Cassidy in particular a really, really good response. And then by the last 5 minutes, they were completely out of it. I think people were over it and wanting this to be over, and you could really, really feel it.
I want you to put this in your brain.
Yes.
This match was almost a half an hour. If you include entrances, it's a half an hour at a minimum.
Ooh. Yes.
The next match, minus entrances, was over 30 minutes long. An hour on 2 matches. Way too much.
And especially when you came off such a molten hot show. I mean, I know I just buried Sheeta in her women's title match, but I mean, it was, it was basically at the right length, and you had the right amount of action. But yeah,
the average person will not remember the match; they will always remember the outcome.
And that's basically what you want. You're only staging moments. That's all you're doing here. You know what I mean?
So
Did this have a moment? Will anyone remember this? I say no.
So like the battle royal is a who cares, but Jungle Boy won. So suddenly it's a happy memory, right?
Yes.
Jungle Boy finally Jungle Boy finally got a big win, and gets a title shot now against Kenny Omega, which I'm actually I'm he's not going to win, but I'm legitimately excited for Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega because I think Kenny Omega will give Jungle Boy a good match.
Exactly, and this one right at the end. So you had, we're 30 minutes in here now on this thing, and you got, Orange Cassidy hits, Kenny Omega with his Orange Cross, his friggin' finisher. He covers Omega, and then Omega just counters into a crucifix and pins him. Like, what? After 30 minutes, that's how you end this? This is like a 5-minute Dynamite match ending. This is not a main event ending.
Yeah, none of these matches should have been more than 15 minutes, and most of them should have been 10. No. This needed to be 15 minutes, max. They needed to cut this match in half.
Let me dissect it. Was the action solid? Yes. Did they hit all the moves for the marks on the internet? Yes, they certainly did. Are they internet-friendly characters? Every single one of these are internet darlings. Did the match have a outcome that mattered? No, it did not. Everybody knew Kenny Omega was winning, and it killed the entire heat for the show. You needed something else playing out here to give some more drama, because I didn't buy any of it. I just knew Kenny Omega was going to walk away.
Listen, I'm the doctor, and my prescription is cut this in half. But do everything you did, but cut it in half. It's fine. The problem was you doubled the length of this unnecessarily, and so you watered down the whole thing.
100%.
All right, in the match,
main event time, baby. Stadium Stampede.
In the match that my family and I did a commentary for. Okay, my daughter couldn't hang, so she's not on this. But my son was having a hoot. we love the garbage matches. We loved the death matches, all kinds of stuff. He asked me if anything was going to blow up in this one, and I said no, probably not. But you'll get to see people hit by cars, and suddenly his pants were off. He was like, "Hot dog." So yes,
this was your comedy. This was your Naked Gun comedy style match, and it was a bit of fun.
Well, I'll tell you what. Last year, which sent Jim Cornette into like a nuclear meltdown. He called it football field fuckery, and I talked about that on the on the commentary. I said, I was talking to my wife and Jonas, and I said last year there was a lot of nonsense. You had the Matt Hardy cartoon character shit. You had the Sammy Guevara cartoon character shit running away from the cart. You had just a lot of stupidity, and then like half the world got upset about it. Like, why can't you guys take anything seriously? And Chris Jericho took off his pants and showed everyone his dick on Twitter, and it was like, okay, we see what you're saying, but it's still a fight, right? It's not a comedy act. So I bring that up to say this. I feel like they corrected that in this match. This just felt like a fight. Was it over the top? Yes. Was it, Who's He What's He from NXT last year, where they had the brawl throughout the Performance Center and it seemed like they were having a real fight, or Edge versus Orton, where they fought all over the Performance Center and it seemed like they were having a real fight. Not more so than the last Stadium Stampede. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. No, I really felt like it was more like the two matches that I said before. My two criticisms of this was, one, the editing. This was
it wasn't. Yeah, so they were doing this segmental, like it was done in segments, so you could tell it was like each individual mini movie put together into like a 5 or 6 piece meal movie type of thing. So it was like it was almost episodic, basically.
Yeah,
and
it had no flow to it. It didn't feel chaotic or frenetic or anything or dynamic. It felt, you're right. It felt like, meanwhile. And they would go to, Jake Hager and Wardlow. And then they were like, and then over here, and then they would go to Christian. And, like, the individual fights, like the Wardlow-Jake Hager shit was great.
Oh, man, it was. These two, man, I'm looking forward to a full-on brawl with these guys. I mean, we've saw it before on Dynamite, but I think there's a lot more to this feud, man. I really like it.
Minor quibbles like fake pigs hanging in the freezer, was my wife pointed out, which I thought was hilarious. Just plastic pigs for some odd reason. But, like the Jake Hager Wardlow segment was good. The stuff with MJF and Jericho, like Jericho's such a clown, but like I legitimately bought that he hated MJF in this, and that he really wanted to hurt MJF, and I legitimately bought that MJF wanted to hurt Jericho. Congratulations, you guys are wrestlers. Good job.
Well, there's a number of things at play here. So you had, the Inner Circle's career is on the line. So basically, if they lose this match, there's stakes. So they break up if they lose this match, okay? Now, on the other side, in reality, we know that Jericho is basically taking the summer off to tour with Fozzy. So you always got that, people who are in the know that this quite possibly, could be the last time we see the Inner Circle. So you had a little bit of behind-the-scenes, things that would tell you maybe, the Inner Circle are going to lose. So, there was a little bit of doubt that they were going to pull this thing off. Plus, the Pinnacle's been on a hot streak. They're coming off a huge angle on that big, War Games cage match that they had. Well, not War Games, but what was it called again?
Blood and Guts.
Yeah, Blood and Guts. The big Blood and Guts cage where Jericho was thrown off the top by our good man MJF. And, so there's a lot on the line here. You actually got a legit blood feud. And I just don't think – I think editing-wise, this was a total miss because I don't think you got to see, Inner Circle versus – the Pinnacle. You got to see, individual feuds play out, and then you got to see a basic wrestling match to close it off, with Spears and Guevara in the middle of a ring in front of the audience, which I do think was the right move, to be quite honest with you, because to have a stadium stampede match not in front of a live crowd would have been a mistake. So I think the ending was done correctly. I don't like the parts in the middle where they segmentalized everything, but yeah. Overall, I thought it was a good match, and Sammy Guevara comes out with the win. So he actually lands a 630 senton, which is something to see, man, if you see this. So it all ends up with Spears and Guevara in the middle of a wrestling ring in the arena, and Sammy wins to give the Inner Circle the win in about 32 minutes. And then everybody, of course, Jericho comes in, Santana, Ortiz, Hager, they all join them. They stick them up on their shoulders as, the hero who won the Inner Circle the match, which is great because you got to see Guevara pushed. And then, of course, everybody sung along to Jericho's music without a gun pointed to their head. So it was good.
Yeah, I really like this. We were having a good time watching it. I don't have major complaints about it. I'm kind of like you. Like my problem, one, it wasn't like when I went the editing. You're not wrong about the compartmentalized perception of it, but presentation of it rather. But my other problem with this was it wasn't cut well. Like
yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, it didn't rise up to like Batman v Superman, cut with a chainsaw level. But
no, Windows Movie Maker.
But I mean, everyone like comments about like Kevin Dunn and his like quick camera shots now, and how everything is cut to pieces and there's no flow to it, and it makes you, it just like it makes you feel like you're gonna have a seizure. Things are moving so fast.
That's the thing. If you looked at the first Stadium Brawl, it was all that. It was those quick cutaways. It was it was 7 shots to show 2 guys throwing 3 punches. You know what I mean? It was almost like watching. What's a movie that had a lot of CGI and you really couldn't pick out what was happening because Transformers, for fuck's sake. Michael Bay and this crazy editing when it comes to, you're trying to see a Transformer transform and you're getting 900 shots to do it and you can't see anything. Mm-hmm. So that's what this was. This was Optimus Prime transforming in Transformers 1 and nobody has a clue what the fuck is happening.
So, and sure, because I know you got to go, but to just sort of get to the end of this, my only other complaint is not that the Shawn Spears, Sammy Guevara stuff wasn't fun to watch or believable. I really thought they made me believe they were messing each other up.
Yep.
But for the most part, AEW, this was probably the most like restrained, over the top street fight I've ever seen AEW do, in the sense that like you made me believe they were having a real fight, and then they didn't. And what I mean by that is everything is going along well. This seems like a fight, and then they do 2 things which took me out of it. One was the gay cowboy scene between FTR and Tully Blanchard, who there's a meme going around. There's a meme going around of the 3 of them in their cutoff shirts and boots, and and flag hanging out of their ass, and it cuts to Bart asking Homer, "Why did you take me to a gay steel mill?"
They're not wrong. That's exactly what it looked like. Village People Invasion.
And instead of like these two teams of hated rivals messing each other up, they drank shots first. Like, stop.
Yeah.
You're not going to...
I know. They did this last time. You remember when it was Hagar and I think it was Adam Page last time?
Yes.
And they sat at the bar and they clinked glasses before they got into a brawl. Same deal. You know what I mean? You got to have the drinking segment. How about Conan as the DJ?
I pop for Conan. I just like... So you're watching a romance movie, but suddenly Leatherface runs in with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
I just, pick a genre and stick with it. And the other one was, so you have Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara in this like blood feud. They're trying to kill each other, and they cut away from it to do something else. They cut back, and suddenly we're in Flashdance. What the fuck was the spotlight on Shawn Spears about?
That was sort of weird. Well, they were trying to do individual movies, you know what I mean? Is this filmed by, did each segment have its own little director and they were going to put their own little cinematic spin on it? I don't know.
Like that episode of Family Guy, 3 directors, it's 3 directors take on the same movie. Peter gets fired.
Exactly. But yeah, that seemed a little bit out of place. But I mean, there was a lot of out of place stuff. Like you said, the gay steel mill thing was kind of weird. You had the spotlight on Spears thing was kind of weird. They had a whole bunch. They overdid the golf cart scenario here. They did the whole golf cart chain. So they did a lot of the tricks that they did in the first one, and they tried to change them up. And this one ended inside the ring. So you know what? Overall, I was happy with it. And the inner circle. Got to celebrate at the win, and we went home happy. So there you go. Solid fucking show, man.
Yeah, my 50 words or less on this was, outside of the 2 times they took me out of it stupidly because they have no self-control, which is the spotlight and the drinking. Other than that, it was a solid brawl where it looked like people hated each other and wanted to mess people up, which is what this was supposed to be. So I think this was a improvement from football field fuckery. Maybe by the time they get to the third one, they'll stop doing jokes in the middle of it.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
AEW, have some self-control. Be adults. Pick a genre.
This should be the last one, I think. I think you should end this one here now.
I think they should do one more, but it all ends in Darby Allin being dropped from a plane holding a bomb.
Blow up the stadium. Love it.
All right, Chris. Do your plug so that you can get out of here and move on with your day.
All right, so I like this pay-per-view. Anthony Ogogo should never be in a wrestling ring. Sheeta should be ashamed of herself, and really you got to push Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston to the moon because those guys are megastars. If you want to hear more from me yapping my gums, you can find me over on the Twitter at Charlton_Hero, where I'm talking about everything from GoBots. Yes, that's right, GoBots, because they're better than Transformers. GoBots and all kinds of retro stuff over on Twitter at Charlton_Hero. You can also hear me with Chris Sheehan, the most positive man in the world, as we cover ElfQuest in all its glory, the epic Marvel Comics run on Quester Days. So you can see me over there on the Chris and Reggie Network. Really digging that show, having a blast there, getting back on the go with Chris, and of course over here on the W2M Network with Mr. Mark Radulich, Greg the Hammer Valentine, over here and of course Chris Sheehan as the Podsman. So there you go. That's Chris Bailey. What else you got, Radulich? Well, take us home, baby doll.
Before you go, hey, that's my line. Quit biting my rhymes, Alexis. Chris Bailey is not done with me for this month, no sir. He will be on the Mania of WrestleMania 3, the big one at the Pontiac Silverdome. Between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, myself, Chris Bailey, and Pat Mullen will talk about that midday on June 15th. That's a Tuesday. And then the next day, more Chris Bailey for your ass. Possibly Harry Broadhurst or possibly Chris Sheehan. We'll see which one shows up. We will be talking NXT TakeOver in your house too, Electric Boogaloo. And then, that's not all. Chris Bailey is back. Possibly Harry Broadhurst, possibly Chris Sheehan, for another midday wrestling review. This time it'll be Hell in the Cell, June 22nd.
This is great. This is basically the Chris Bailey network right now. Chris Bailey, Chris Bailey, Chris Bailey. Thank you. I'm glad to have this hostile takeover of your network, Mark.
Oh, shit. Also, I forgot. We got to somehow fit in there an Against All Odds review.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable! It's a full-fledged boy. If you don't like Chris Bailey, this ain't your month.
Yeah, really.
Stay away.
Yeah, we'll have to shove that in the butt of of our takeover review. We'll talk about it later.
All right. Sounds
Just
good.
don't make any fucking plans June 16th, Chris Bailey. Pack a sack lunch. You're mine, and we belong together.
I love it, baby.
All right. You're excused, by the way.
All right, I'll take off. Anyway, take care, everybody. Have a great day.
We dropped a review of A Quiet Place 2. We dropped a review of the new Bongzilla Wisconsin, but then we also reviewed an EP they dropped earlier in the year called Nocturnal something. I don't remember. But last night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, Jesse Starcher and I talked a lot of Bongzilla, and then we played a top 10 plus of songs for metalheads to smoke weed to. So that's fun. We've been doing a lot of Disney / Cruella stuff this week. We re-aired the Everyone Loves a Bad Guy Disney Villains Part 1 that Robert Winfrey did back in the day. Alexis Hana and I reviewed a comic book called Mickey's Inferno, which is a parody of Dante's Inferno with Mickey Mouse. We reviewed Cruella, and then we took it back in the backyard and shot it. And tonight, we will have a on trial for the Glenn Close 1996 live-action 101 Dalmatians, but that's not all. My son has insisted we do a commentary track, another one. So we're going to do the 1961 animated 101 Dalmatians, so look for that in the near future. The Flashback Friday show this week is Expendables 3. So check that out. Saturday, we'll have a syndicated source material for something called Colonel Jim Sanders. You'll have to talk to Jesse Starcher about all that. Hey, Jesse Starcher dropped an Unspoken Issues for WCW issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. It's the most popular thing that we put out this week. So go ahead and check that out. That's all in the archives. Next Sunday, we'll have live commentary for Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul, plus the second half of the Disney Villains Everyone Loves a Bad Guy Part 2. Next week is Lucifer, MODOK Head Games, Marvel's MODOK on Hulu. We'll have, as I promised my son I would, a Ready Player One alternative commentary, because apparently Samaritans is not coming out June 4th anymore. So we're not going to talk about that. Jesse Starcher has the week off, so I'm tapping Robert Winfrey like I want to do. He loves metal. He loves The Simpsons, so he was the right person for Dr. Colossus, which is a Simpsons-inspired doom / stoner metal band. And then on Thursday, we have a comic strip. It'll be myself, Sean Comer, and Alexis Hana. We will be talking the book and the animated movie for The Judas Contract. That's it. Before we go, I just want to remind everybody that we are giving away a free 30 days of Amazon Music. That's right, a free 30 days of Amazon Music on the W2M network. Just click the link in the description page at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Fill out all the information on there, agree for the 30 days, and you can stream to your heart's content. And then if you don't want to keep it after 30 days, you can cancel it. No fuss, no muss. But if you like it, like I think you will, because it's a great service, you can find all the music you'd ever want to find there. Then you can keep it. You know, you got the Amazon Prime Video, where they have exclusive movies like Without Remorse, which we also reviewed, or Coming to America, second verse, same as the first. So you got your Prime Video, you got your Prime Music, you got your Prime groceries, you can order video games, Amazon. It's killing the retail marketplace, but it's great for the rest of us. So check out AmazonMusic.com. That's it. That's all for me. I'm moving on to bigger and better things. Be well, be safe, and behave.